Hey everyone, I'm Kloo. Welcome back to Small Soul Dungeon. So, a commenter raised an interesting question, which was, what is the highest someone's gotten in Boss Rush? And I find that quite curious because in the endgame, people don't really focus on trying to get as far as possible. The whole idea is just to get as many credits as possible, as quick as possible. So, this is the ideal comp for that. However, it's not the ideal comp for getting as far as possible. A while ago, I was focused on using Glass Wardens. Glass Wardens are the best weapon to try and get as far as possible since their damage scales better than just basic damage stacking with items, so to speak. But their animation is slow. That was the big hang-up. Now, my record currently sits at 7,418. So, in terms of floors, you just add a 0. So, I got to the 74,000th, I can't do it with the TH. 74,180 was my highest floor reached in Boss Rush. But now that I have all this endgame equipment, I'm curious too, what is the furthest I can possibly get and what is the best comp for it? So I think we're going to tweak this a little bit and readjust it so that we can go after the highest floor possible. So first off, we need to decide who's going to use the Glass Warden. So we've got the 3 Magic Caster classes here. And the biggest thing with the Glass Warden is the more magic damage you stack, the higher its damage can actually be. So if you get over 100% for instance, it should effectively kill any enemy in one shot. Granted, if they have damage reduction for instance, like the Good Lord, it doesn't quite work. So you really need to push it and get it as high as possible. If we take a look at the Wizard, his boost to magic attack is 25%. The Dark Mage is also 25%. The Mystic's base boost to magic is already higher than the other two. Isn't that interesting? Not only does the Mystic have inbuilt mana regen at 9, but they also have a higher base damage output. So they are by far the best class in the game, and there's no way you can change my mind. I've been speedrunning the game, and they're definitely the best class. So we will be using Mystics, and a big step to first realize is we need at least 2. So we need 1 Mystic to kill the first stage of the Dark Lord, and we need another Mystic to actually kill the boss version. So we will need 2 Mystics, and the other big thing that we're actually going to grab a third, if I can find one, is we need 1 to cast Regen. So we actually need 3 Mystics, and then there's 1 slot still available. So for this final slot, I'm going to grab a Blade Master. The reason I want a Blade Master is because they can still do the high single target damage. And the idea behind that is we want to push the boundary just a little bit further. So for instance, if we get to the point where the boss's damage reduction prevents the Glass Warden from one-shotting, we want it to still be within a range that the Blade Master can now hit. So if we stack the most damage possible on the Blade Master, using for instance the Sword in Space and Time, along with all the crit gear, we should be able to still hit quite high with the Blade Master. So the idea being we have 2 Mystics to really cut through the boss's HP, and then the Blade Master comes in to clench it. So here's what I've ended up coming up with. I needed to go ahead and swap off the damage reduction gear from this 3rd Mystic. The reason for that is we need to hit above 100% boost to magic attack. That way the Glass Warden one-shots. So this Mystic needed a Cosmic Shield and of course the Tangleheart Embrace Armor to really maximize their magic attack. It should still be fine. The Fluster Storm attack that the Darkest Lady has will hit these 2, because their damage reduction is going to do next to nothing. Even once it gets to the point where it starts to wipe this Mystic, the Dark Lord should be able to jump in and take the hit. The Dark Lord is then also optimized for 2 roles. One, it's our tank, so again, it's got the mask. We've got regen built in, don't we? At some point, or do I need to give you regen? Oh, we have regen from the Jade Talisman, sorry. So yeah, so the Dark Lord cannot die, unless he's hit twice back to back, so to speak, on the same boss. But so he will tank, he will sacrifice himself, take the hit for someone else, and live, thanks to the mask. And he also has the mop, so that he has group cleanse. And the reason for this is, any bosses who outspeed the Dark Lord can then apply status effect. If they do apply status effect, the Dark Lord will help us by cleansing. And to make sure that he can use it, we've got the flask on, so it now only costs 1, and he can always consistently cast group cleanse. The Blade Master is exactly as we stated before. We've maximized him for damage, so he's got the Sword in Space and Time since it is the highest base damage, and all the crit gear so that he's should be at, which he's not, above 100% crit chance, which is a bit sad. Does mean I have to change from the cape to the goggles, but it's not too bad. Did I do the right gem? Yeah, crit chance. You can probably swap stuff around. So crit chance, I think there's a crit damage one, right? The target gem, isn't it? Yeah, 50% crit damage. A little bit of a trade-off. We lose, what, 200%? It's still fine. So yeah, so he's maximized for damage. He's got above 100% crit. He's doing 300 times crit damage. So he should do, was that 9,000, 10,000 damage? So the idea being, between our two Glass Wardens, we can cut their HP enough that the Blade Master will still be significant once of course we get to that point, and this should theoretically get us as far as possible in Boss Rush. We have prioritized not only safety, but also maximizing damage and squeezing out that little bit extra. So, the only thing to do now is give it a go. I do also need to burn this into my brain, because unfortunately I do not have any slots left to save the comp, but we should be good. The scripts, I should also go over. So I've edited the script, I've just added a few things. So from Taunt upwards, these 4 are what I've added for Boss Rush. So again, just ally status equal to negative, so anyone who has a negative effect, Dark Lord is going to group cleanse. Then our Mystic, who can recharge, will recharge whenever possible. In fact, this should be below Judgment, just to make sure that Judgment is always used, even if the recharge runs out on one of their turns. And then, of course, Judgment, so as long as the rank is greater than Mini-Boss, Judgment, rank is greater than Mini-Boss, default attack, which also should be a little bit lower. I'm not sure... No, so this self-status, positive and defend, will mean that anyone who is on recharge will. It's not too much of an issue. Obviously, we would rather the Tavern Owner and the Mystic defend, as it saves a little bit of time. But again, we're just going for the longest possible run, not the quickest possible, so it's not too much of a big deal. I also should just double check, make sure everyone is on the right script. So 1 script, who else we're using? Dark Lord, 1 script, Blade Master, 1 script, and the Mystic. Everyone's good to go, and we should be able to get pretty far. Should be doing a lot of damage. Of course, the Dark Lord is going to clean up for us a little bit here. We got some recharge, we regained all our HP, they took next to nothing. How about from the Flusterstorm? So 1 each, and then missed. It should be fine, so this is how it should go. The Tavern Owner and his first Mystic should take hardly any damage. This is a slight issue. Why? What happened there? I wasn't paying attention. It looked like you cast recharge, didn't it? We'll have to see again. If this Mystic isn't one-shotting that end boss, it means I will have to give this one a Glass Warden to make sure it does. But we should see it coming up. Other than that, it does look like it's going pretty fine. Again, we're super tanky, which is really good. That's what we want. So your Glass Warden is killing. That's good. Yes, why did you not use your Glass Warden? You've got enough mana. Ah, right. I do not have a Huntress. That's actually really good that we caught. All I need to do is add a cooldown gem, and we can do it properly. Right. Let me refigure it out. Right, there we go. That should be better. So I went ahead and gave the cooldown gem to the Mystic. Because I had to remove one of the Withering Gems, I needed to take up the Slow Stone from the Tavern Owner. So he's going to attack, so we are somewhat slower. Well, at least not in the early game, because they'll be cleaning up bosses. But in the late game, we would obviously want them to defend. It's not a big deal. But we should be fine now. The Glass Warden's cooldown should be negated. And we should be fine to give it another test. Turns out this run, not so good. So, because of the way I have the script set up, this Dark Lord he's a normal enemy for whatever reason. I'm guessing because you eventually unlock him and they use the same, like, properties. But yeah, so no one's killing him. We're just stuck in this infinite loop. He can't kill us because of the Mystic's inbuilt HP regen, but he did pick off our Blade Master and our Dark Lord. It's a bit unfortunate. It means we can probably get a lot further with this comp, but I do have to obviously fix up that issue. I did make a few changes between the one you saw and this one. Granted, I have to build it from scratch, so we'll see what I come up with. So, first up, we gotta change the script. A little bit annoying. The way I have it set up is for us to deal with the Vacation Lord, who has his barbecue as an add in his fight. So since we're prioritizing the mini-boss over just the normal ad, it means that they're going to use Judgment on the Vacation Lord rather than targeting his barbecue. But we do have to change it so that they can deal with the normal boss. So I guess we just do enemy any instead of rank. We do weakest. There's no strongest, which is a bit annoying. Facing back turn, no. There's no good way to play around the barbecue. I think you just have to do any, and then we have 2 anyway, so hopefully they can still take care of things. An enemy, any default attack. Problem with this is this now overwrites the 1 script, so all of our stuff down here, which is really bad. We don't want that. There's nothing we can really do unless we're just planning on using Judgment. No, you know what? I could put it to ally and fight. Anyway, we'll leave it, because again, I'm not probably going to do this after we get a really high score. Also, this time I made sure to save it. I got rid of my item farming comp, since I'm obviously no longer farming items. This is what I sort of altered. What did I tweak? Right, I put more mana regen on this Mystic, because I noticed they were starting to run out of their Glass Warden uses. And did I do anything else? I think that was it. So instead of the Magic Ring, they just now have a Jade Talisman. Everything else looks fine. They're taking hardly any damage. Dark Lord was surviving. I'm just going to assume that they were dying to that loop we got into on the normal Dark Lord, enemy Dark Lord. The comp might be fine. The only other tweak might be just canning the Blade Master and putting in another survivalist character. I still recommend splitting up the 2 Mystics, having one on each side, since the majority of bosses have either just a left hand or right hand sweep attack, and that's the big thing you're playing around. But we should be fine. Yes, I will just give it another go with the comp now, especially because I have it saved. And hopefully we can get further than 55,000, was it? Depends if we loop on any of the bosses anymore. But looks, for the most part, we're doing fine. I mean, they're cleaning up with their normal attacks anyway. Everyone else also regenning to full, which is really good. It might even be worth just swapping out the Blade Master for a Mystic. Granted, you lose some attack damage, you can still get pretty high. Just because, again, their unlockable stats just seem so much better than every other class. Like, the amount of HP and mana they have built in. They even have a decent amount of crit and evasion. It's just kind of insane that their stats are so better distributed than everyone else's. But anyway, we'll see how far we get this time. So, we lost to Dots, which is interesting, because I'm pretty sure I'd set it up so the Dark Lord should be cleansing. I guess back to tweaking it. Which one is it? This one, high score. Other than that, the damage seems fine. Blade Master got lost a bit early. I feel like the Dark Lord is only good at protecting 2 units, 1 on each side. So whether or not we just sub him out for someone who's stacked in damage resistance and maybe has a bit more utility, maybe like a nurse, that she can top everyone else off. I'm going to tinker with it, and then I'll see what I come up with. Okay, so first off, I just have to make sure. We're going to show, I should say, or test, if marking increases damage of Judgment. So we've got one enemy marked, one enemy not. They both have around the same HP. The Judgment without the marked entity does 40.4 billion. And the one against the marked does an extra 50%. So that's really good to know. So I think we need to completely change the idea I'm using behind Boss Rush. So the new comp I think is going to work a lot better. This one, I've scrapped the Blade Master, and I've also altered a few things around. For one, the Huntresses are essentially decked out so that they can't be inflicted with status, and also they have maximum damage reduction. The idea being that this Huntress, and the Mystic that's casting the regen hypothetically can't be killed any time before the 2 Mystics or the Dark Lord, and this essentially cuts down our risk. The major thing I've done is I've cut out the Tavern Owner, so the Tavern Owner no longer increases the magic clock time and all that, so we are going to be slower, no big deal. Again, we're prioritizing the highest score possible, and to do that I think this comp is going to serve a lot better. And the idea is Huntress mark, Mystic clears, with the Judgment now at without the relic. What is it? This one has 171% boost to magic attack, plus another 50% because of the mark, and then same with this mystic. So always go mark, kill, 4 in terms of the final boss, since that's the 2 phases. And then on this mystic, I've gone ahead and given them the wraps. Previously they had the gauntlet, which doesn't really serve a purpose. They don't need the extra mana. By the time they are recasting the regen, they'll have all their mana back. And then aside from that, I'm also just using uranium plating and uranium gems to get as high as possible on our boost magic attack. So for instance, this mystic right here, this one in number 4, should theoretically be doing 3 times, right? With the boost, 3 times the HP of the boss, minus any damage reduction, but should hopefully outscale any sense of damage we would have gotten from using a Blade Master to clean up. The other issue I didn't clue in on was the fact that the mop has a 3-turn cooldown. So now that we have 2 Huntresses and the cooldown gem, that mop is usable every turn, so the Dark Lord should go back to clearing any status effects before they have a chance to actually proc and deal damage. So we should be able to get further, fingers crossed. I do just need to tweak the script because I don't think I have marking in. No, so we've got the group cleanse still, judgment, recharge. Default attack shouldn't really matter. I guess it just helps with the one on recharge. Is it really necessary? It's just a waste of time. Probably just a waste of time. So we'll just change this. Enemy, any, it should be mark. Specific skill. Where is it? It's mark. Okay, so that should be fine. So the one that's recharging, anytime they have recharge active, they should just defend, since they have a positive effect. Other than that, the other ones are going to cast Judgment, Huntress should always mark, and the Dark Lord should always group cleanse or defend. Essentially, we're cutting out all the early game, so this initial batch should be a bit slower, at least once we cast Recharge. Yep. So from now on, the Dark Lord should defend because he has a positive buff. And his sole purpose is only cleansing or saving someone from a negative hit. So all our damage will come from the Huntress and then the Mystics. Also regenning. It's another thing I try to prioritize to make sure that everyone can try and top off their HP. The 2 Huntresses and the Mystic over here should definitely never be below 1000 HP if that. And everyone else should steadily make their way through. And then even this Huntress... No, this Huntress should actually remark. Okay, so here's our first issue. Mark the wrong target. So the Vacation Lord and this Final Lord is definitely the biggest hurdle in the boss rush. Because of A, the 2 adds, and you can't really plan around it unless you really just make an absurd script. Because I don't know what this Dark Lord is ranked as. I don't even think he's a normal enemy, I think it's something even below that. Recharge back, mana's keeping up, I think we're good to go, for the most part. It is obviously significantly slower without the Tavern Owner and the method we're using, but fingers crossed we can actually get past, I don't know, like 100,000 this time, if not further. There is still a slight snag, so the regen on this Mystic isn't quite enough. The way the regen works is a round is counted as 6 units going. So if we kill the boss on this second unit, well that's only 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Meaning we're getting an extra cast off on this Mystic before they actually regen enough mana. Is slightly an issue. Even if I put the 2 mana regen gems on them, I don't think it'll be enough. They have the Jade Talisman, if I'm correct. So they have almost maximum regen in terms of mana. It's not a big deal. The only big issue is if we get misaligned and on the Darkest Lord, this Mystic does not have enough mana regen. So far it looks like no, actually this might be it. Depends if they recharge their mana here. I think because it's an even 10 rounds, it should always be the same pattern. So we shouldn't run into issues till we're not doing enough damage on this first Mystic to kill, say, the Good Lord. And then we might actually run into issues of losing because we don't have the right mana base. But I think our scaling on damage is significantly higher, so we should be able to push further. I just want to see the Good Lord again and make sure that is the case. So every third boss, I think it was, this Mystic goes, which isn't a big deal. Again, we're keeping up for the most part. We just needed an extra, or you need an extra, like, 14 mana? Or for me to swap maybe the Flask over. But I'd rather make sure that we can always cleanse. Okay, so I think here... Well, we'll actually save because they hit the barbecue instead of this guy. So we have just enough mana, but it is somewhat of an issue. I'm gonna let it play out, see if it does interfere. Otherwise I will go back to the chopping board, I guess. The solution might just be running a Glass Warden on this Mystic. Or slowing down these two Mystics to make sure that enough people go that we get a regen. So ideally we'd want 6 actions. Then, no, because then the marking would be back to back and there'd be no point to have 2 of them either. Bit complex. Essentially, we need everyone to go before a boss dies in order to have infinite mana. Anyway, I'll see. If I can get past like 20,000 consistently, I think that should be a good sign that the pattern's fine. So, unfortunately, we're still missing the mark. We're running into some issues with, I'd say, RNG. So our Dark Lord got put to sleep, meaning he couldn't cleanse himself. So we kind of need like a redundancy. Anyway, back to the drawing board for me, I guess. See you next time.